Now, so far, 2020 has proved an absolutely brilliant year as far as budget smartphones go. And yeah, it's been utterly cack in pretty much every other department, but as far as those budget smartphones go, it's absolutely crushed it. And not just that, it's getting better and better all the time. And in fact, Realme has just launched this bad boy here, the X50 5G, for just over 300 quid here in the UK. And yet, despite that low asking price, it still packs in full 5G support, the Snapdragon 765G chipset, and a 120Hz display. And it doesn't just sound mental, it sounds far too good to be true. But then, to be fair, Realme absolutely smashed it out of the park with its excellent value 6 series earlier in 2020. Let's take you on a full unboxing now of the X50 5G, show you exactly what to expect for the hardware and the software ahead of my in-depth review. And for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! And getting a Realme smartphone really is like having a lovely warm hug. You've got this gorgeously vibrant box, of course, and then of course as soon as you open it up, hey, welcome to the Realme family. Just a really nice introduction. And you've got a floppy thing containing a obligatory condom case, because of course pretty much all the budget smartphones now come pack in one, which is great to see. Extra value for money. There's the actual Realme X50 5G itself. I'll just stick that aside for now. And what else you get inside? Well, no real surprises by the looks of it. I've got a 2-pin European adapter here because it's a European review sample. But if you buy it here in the UK, of course, you'll get to your 3-pin plug-in set. And that is a bit of a beast, isn't it? Look at that. You've got your Type-C USB cable to charge up the Realme X50 5G. And it's even got a bit of yellow trim on the inside as well. Good bit of attention to detail there. And last up, an essential tool, the Pokey Pin device to actually get your SIM card slotted inside of there. So here it is, the Realme X50 5G, possibly one of the best budget smartphones of 2020, certainly very promising from the specs. That's for damn sure. And actually, from a design perspective, it's not massively dissimilar from the Realme X50 Pro, which I've already reviewed. A bit more expensive, around the sort of £500 mark, but also bumps up the specs a bit. You can grab this bad boy in a couple of different hues, either ice silver or this here forest green model. And as you can see there, it's got all the funky light striation effects going on as you sort of tilt it and it hits the light just so. So yeah, definitely so far digging that design. I'm going to say it's probably one of the better looking £300 smartphones that I've fondled in 2020. And it should prove nice and hardy as well, because you've got a bit of Gorilla Glass 5 coating here on the back and also on that front as well, which is also protected by a pre-installed screen protector. And if you reckon the back end could use a bit of extra protection as well, well, no worries, just slap on that bundled prophylactic case. And yeah, this does add on a bit of girth onto the X50 and takes away from some of those sexy vibes, but it does offer all-round protection as well. All those corners are covered and it even juts a little way above the screen surface as well. So hopefully, if the X50 was to face plant a bit of concrete or something, it would still survive all right. And that seems to be most of the exciting stuff as far as the X50 design goes. As you can see there, though, an edge-mounted fingerprint sensor as well, which also doubles as the power button. Just going to see if we've got some juice in the tank already. Yes, we do. Brilliant. Okay, so I'll get the X50 all set up now. Oh, and as I'm sticking my SIM card into the Realme X50 5G as well, just worth pointing out that it does support dual SIM, one on each side of the tray, but there's no micro SD memory card support, unfortunately. But you do get 128 gigs of storage as standard, so hopefully that should see you through. Okay, so I've finished setting up the Realme X50 5G. So far, so good. So as I mentioned before, you've got that edge-mounted fingerprint sensor, which doubles as the power button. As you can see there, you don't actually have to push it in, you just have to literally tap your finger to the surface straight in. And in backup as well, just in case your hands are a bit grubby or something, you've also got face unlock, so just point it at your face, just give it a little swipey swipe, and as you can see, straight in as well, nice and swift. And you can also get a good bit of raise to wake action on the go as well, so just lift up the smartphone, it'll immediately scan for your mug, and Jesus Christ, that is fast. No hanging about at all, great to see. And then once you're actually into Android, it's Android 10 of course, with a good bit of Realme UI slathered on top as well, which is basically Color OS by a different name, let's face it. And I'm definitely a fan of Realme UI, just as I quite like the latest versions of ColorOS. You've got full draw support, so you don't have to have all your apps cluttering your desktops as well, which is an absolute nightmare. You've got all the usual stuff like good old dark mode on board, so let's turn that on. Got a good bit of gesture navigation action, of course. Great to see you can ditch that navigation bar. You got the one-handed mode, which is very helpful indeed, because like most of the smartphones in 2020, the Realme X50 5G is a bit of a bloody behemoth. And to get that one-handed goodness on the go, it's a little bit fiddly. You've got to sort of swipe down from the bottom edge here, like so, but as you can see, sometimes you end up activating the camera app or whatever else you've got in that middle bottom row there. Now let's talk about the Realme X50 5G's gorgeous 6.57-inch display. Definitely one of the highlights of this smartphone. for sure. Now it's an IPS panel, full HD plus resolution, so as you can see they're nice crisp visuals. The colours definitely seem perfectly natural, good viewing angles and all that shenanigans. And certainly if you're a movie fan, it looks like the Realme X50 5G will do the job, as long as you don't mind this cutout for the dual lens selfie camera down in the corner. It is worth pointing out though quickly that on my review model here, I wasn't able to install Netflix or Disney Plus from the Google Play Store, just the likes of Crunchyroll and Amazon Prime Video. I'm guessing that's just because it's a pre-release model, so they haven't been opened up as it were on Google Play yet, but just as a heads up. But where the Realme X50 5G really impresses is the fact that it's got that 120Hz refresh rate, which frankly you'll struggle to find on most flagship phones, let alone phones around the £300 price point. It's absolutely mental. And of course not even the Realme X50 Pro edition offered 120Hz refresh, so yeah, kudos Realme, the fact that you managed to get it into this budget friendly phone is incredible stuff. And as you can see there, you can actually knock the display into 120Hz refresh rate modes all of the time, otherwise you can have the phone auto select for you depending on what you're actually doing, but there's no middle ground. It's not 60, 90 or 120, it's either 60 or 120. And on that 120Hz mode, oh my god, it's so silky smooth. It's just absolutely stunning stuff. I can't stop swiping through these menus, they're lovely. And of course the screen is stunning, but the audio side of things has not been neglected. You've got full Dolby Atmos support with full manual controls if you like them, and there's also support for high-res audio on here too. Sadly there's no headphone jack action here on the Realme X50, but you do have Bluetooth 5.1 support if you want to get connected to a wireless pair, and if you just want to go au natural, you've got a bottom firing mono speaker instead. Let's just bump up the volume, test that out.
Thanks to the beefy Snapdragon 765G chipset, backed by a whopping 8 gigs of RAM.
So certainly on that top volume, the clarity is still reasonably strong. It's certainly got a good punch to it, nice powerful audio, but of course in terms of listening to music or anything, you'll definitely want to do that through some headphones. So yeah, that display here on the Realme X50 5G definitely looks like one of the highlights, but another highlight, especially at this price point, should be the performance. Haven't had a chance to test it out yet, obviously, but to put it bluntly, it should be absolutely shit hot. So stuffed inside of this thing, powering the show, is Qualcomm's Snapdragon 765G chipsets. That's a platform that's geared towards gaming. I've already tested out a 765G smartphone, the Motorola Edge, which by the way costs twice as much as this thing, and yeah, no problems whatsoever with the likes of PubG Mobile, Call of Duty, smashed through the lot. And as you've got either 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM on board here as well, absolutely no worries with multitasking, apps running in the background, things like that. Certainly seems so far, touchwood, nice and nippy. Just tap an app and it basically loads straight up. Doesn't seem to be culling too much stuff in the background. So yeah, should do the job quite nicely. And one of the other benefits of the 765G is the fact that it's got a built-in 5G modem, so you do indeed have full 5G connectivity support here on the X50 5G, as the name kind of gives away a little bit. And yeah, that 5G support ain't exactly running rampant across the UK just yet, but it's definitely getting there, so at least you've got a good bit of future-proofing on this bad boy. And apparently the Realme X50 5G can smartly determine which is the best network for you, 4G or 5G at any given time, based on, you know, the congestion and everything, so you make sure you get the fastest, most dependable connection. What's next? Bit of battery tech. So what we have stuffed inside of this bad boy is a 4200 milliamp cell, so pretty sizable. Hopefully should see you through a full day of use, especially as the 765G seems to be a reasonably energy efficient chipset despite the crazy amount of performance you get on it. As you can see, you've got high performance mode, you've got power saving options, all that kind of shenanigans. And when it does come time to plug in the X50 as well, you've got VOOC 4.0 fast charging support, so that's 30 watt fast charging, should get a full charge in just over an hour or so. And let's finish up as always with a look at the camera tech, and here on the back of the X50 5G you've got a quad lens rear camera setup. There's a 48 megapixel primary lens here on the X50 5G, and that is using Samsung's old GM1 sensor. And also on board you've got an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, a 2 megapixel macro lens, whoop-de-doo, and a 2 megapixel black and white portrait lens. And when you load up the camera app, it'll look very familiar to anyone who's used to Realme smartphones. It's basically the same setup as usual, reasonably easy to get to grips with as well, despite the fact you've got quite a lot of features and everything to play around with if you so desire. So you've got, of course, full on auto HDR smarts, you've got the chroma boost, which can just produce more vibrant visuals, although I recommend keeping that off. You've got the usual filters that you can play around with. If you want to swap to the wide angle lens, it's just a quick tap down here, and then as you can see you get that nice broad wide angle view. And you've also got digital zoom, which you can jump into with a quick tap up here, though obviously once you start getting to that 5 times digital zoom, things will probably start to look quite crummy. And I believe photos are captured at 12 megapixel resolution by default, with a bit of pixel bin in just to help brighten up the image if needed. But you can shoot at full 48 megapixels if you like by jumping into this option here. And then of course you've got your portrait mode to shoot a nice bit of bokeh style effects in the background. And if you tap more, you've got a few other bits that you can play around with, including a full-on pro mode, of course, which is always great to see. So you can mess around with the shutter speeds, the ISO levels, white balance, get exactly the kind of effect you like. As you can see up here, you can shoot in a RAW format as well as JPEG. I'll be testing this all out, as I say before, for the Realme X50 5G review, of course. So yeah, see how the photo chops stand up and the video chops as well, because you can shoot up to 4K resolution footage. You've once again got the super steady mode, ultra steady, as Realme terms it. And then swapping around to the front-facing dual selfie cam, it's a 16 megapixel primary lens, which should hopefully capture some reasonably decent-looking selfies. Uses Sony's IMX471 sensor, so certainly seems nice and nippy. Yes, I agree, I allow. Oh yeah, that's another blinder there. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Basically, don't talk and shoot at the same time. Let's see if that one's any better. Oh yeah, miles better. And the secondary lens is a 2 megapixel depth sensor as well, so you can get a bit of bokeh action in the background. And that just helped to highlight your subjects again, just blur out everything behind them. So that right there, in a nutshell, is what I think of the Realme X50 5G after just a quick fondle of this bad boy. Of course, I've got my Sims stuffed away inside there. I've got my geeky anime background on the go. So stay tuned in about a week's time for my full in-depth review. It'd be great to hear what you think so far of the Realme X50 5G as well. Please slap your thoughts down in the comments below. And please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell if you haven't already. Much obliged, and have yourselves a lovely rest of the day. Cheers, everyone. Love you.